Arthur's boots were held together by duct tape, cracked leather, and 15 years of red clay dirt. He smelled faintly of diesel and rain. When he pulled open the heavy glass doors of the First National Bank, the polished marble floor echoed every heavy step he took. The air-conditioned chill hit him like a wall, stark against the summer heat outside. People in sharp suits glanced up from their polished wooden desks, their eyes lingering just a second too long on his faded denim overalls, his calloused hands, and the sweat-stained brim of his mesh hat. To the world in this climate-controlled room, Arthur was just another struggling small-town farmer drowning in bad weather, falling crop prices, and high-interest loans. But Arthur didn't care about the stares. He held a crumpled, yellowed bank statement in his right hand and walked straight toward the teller window with a calm, quiet purpose. He stopped at the counter. Behind the glass sat a young banker named Julian, whose name tag glistened with fresh gold paint. Julian barely looked up from his computer monitor, his fingers tapping rhythmically on his mechanical keyboard as he finished an email. When he finally turned to Arthur, his polite customer service smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you today?" Julian asked, his voice dripping with practiced condescension. Arthur didn't flinch. He placed his dirt-streaked thumb on the counter and spoke in a low, gravelly rasps. "I need to withdraw $50 from my account, please." Julian sighed inwardly, glancing at the clock. A $50 withdrawal meant a manual ticket, a teller drawer check, and unnecessary paperwork for a man who looked like he barely had $50 to his name. Julian reached for a standard withdrawal slip. "All right, sir. I'll need your full name, social security number, and a valid photo ID." Arthur reached into his pocket and pulled out a faded leather wallet. From it, he produced a battered state driver's license and laid it gently on the glass. Julian picked up the card, typed the social security number into his terminal, and waited for the system to populate Arthur's account details. He expected to see a basic checking account with a few $100s, maybe a lingering farm loan with delinquent payments. The screen flickered black for a second, standard for the bank's archaic internal mainframe, before blue text cascaded down the display. Julian glanced at the top right corner where the balanced total sat. He paused. He blinked once, then twice. He adjusted his silk tie, leaning closer to the glowing screen until his nose almost touched the glass. The number wasn't 3 digits. It wasn't 4 digits. It stretched across the screen, flanked by commas that seemed impossibly placed. Julian's breath hitched in his throat. The faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead suddenly felt deafening. He looked at the system code at the bottom of the screen to check for a glitch or a network error, but the status read active, verified, and locked. The man standing across from him, the man with dirt beneath his fingernails and duct tape on his boots, was holding an account that had been untouched, silently accumulating compound interest, high-yield dividend payouts, and untouched trust distributions for over 45 years. Julian's face turned deathly pale. The smug, dismissive demeanor instantly evaporated, replaced by a cold, sweat-inducing panic. His throat went completely dry. He looked up from the monitor, his eyes wide and trembling, fixing his gaze on the old farmer who was standing patiently, hands folded over his belt, waiting for his cash. Julian's hands shook so violently he almost dropped his pen as he looked at the screen one last time, reading the endless string of zeros next to Arthur's name. Julian's voice trembled as he gripped the edge of the counter, his knuckles turning white. Mr. Vance, he stuttered, dropping the cold customer service tone entirely. There must be a mistake. Your balance, it's over $42 million. Arthur didn't blink. He didn't smile. He simply nodded, his weathered face completely calm. It's no mistake, son, Arthur said quietly. 45 years ago, Arthur's father had been the sole owner of a local timber mill that supplied the foundation lumber for the entire county's modern developments. When his father passed away suddenly, Arthur was just 20 years old. Overwhelmed by grief and distrustful of the corporate greed creeping into small-town banking, Arthur locked the entirety of his family's estate and land sale payouts into a strict, self-compounding trust. He made a vow to himself: he would never live off money he didn't earn with his own sweat. For 4 decades, Arthur worked his modest farm by hand, living frugally, letting the fortune sit in total silence while the world assumed he was just another poor, struggling landholder. Julian stared in total disbelief. "Sir, if you have $42 million, why on earth are you asking to withdraw $50? Arthur leaned in slightly, his sharp blue eyes locking onto the young banker's pale face. "Because $50 is all I need to pay for my grandson's medicine today," Arthur explained softly. "And because 30 minutes ago, I watched you reject a young mother's $30 charge for baby formula right here at this window because she was $2 short on her overdraft." Julian froze, a heavy wave of shame washing over him. He remembered the woman. He had dismissively turned her away just before Arthur stepped up to the counter, strictly enforcing bank policy without an ounce of human compassion. "I stayed in line to see how you treat people when you think they have nothing," Arthur continued, his voice carrying the weight of a lifetime of quiet dignity. "Money doesn't make a man, son. How he treats those who have none does. I kept my money in this bank for 45 years because your predecessor, old Mr. Higgins, treated every farmer who walked through those doors with respect, whether they had 5 cents or 5 million. Arthur reached into his pocket and pulled out a second piece of paper, a signed transfer authorization form drafted by his estate attorney. "I came here today to withdraw $50 in cash," Arthur said firmly. "And to wire the remaining $42 million to the community credit union down the street. They still remember what people are worth." Julian could only watch helplessly as the screen processed the massive capital transfer, stripping the branch of its largest single private account in a matter of seconds. The manager rushed out of his corner office, frantically trying to intercept, but it was already too late. Arthur took the crisp $50 bill Julian handed him with trembling hands, tucked it neatly into his pocket, and tipped his worn mesh hat. "Keep the change, son," Arthur whispered, turning toward the glass doors. "You just paid for a very expensive lesson."